Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cycling World. Some stages are simply won, others define an entire race. Stage 2 of the Tour Down Under 2026 clearly belonged to the second category. What happened in the hills of Adelaide was not just a stage victory, it was a statement. And that statement was delivered with authority by UAE Team Emirates, XRG. From the profile alone, it was clear this would not be an ordinary day. Nearly 2,800 metres of elevation gain, constant tension, and a course designed to wear riders down before the decisive moment. Everything pointed toward the Corkscrew climb as the place where the race would be shaped. Once again, that climb did not disappoint. The peloton reached the base of the Corkscrew together, but appearances were misleading. The fight for position had already been won. The teams of the favourites were exactly where they needed to be. There was no hesitation, no improvisation. Everyone knew that once the road tilted upward, there would be no place to hide. That is when UAE began to assert control. First through positioning, then through tempo, and finally through a level of dominance that immediately changed the scale of the race. Adam Yates took responsibility early on the climb, setting a relentless pace that stripped away support riders and exposed weaknesses. His effort was not explosive. It was suffocating. The kind of rhythm that quietly removes contenders before they realise what is happening. When Vine took over, the climb shifted into another gear. The acceleration was sharp and decisive. No theatrics, no looking back, just a clear intention to break the race apart. The selection was immediate. Only one rider could hold the wheel. Jhonatan Narváez, the defending champion, understood the moment perfectly. He did not respond with panic or unnecessary aggression. He simply stayed calm and followed, knowing that the real danger was not ahead, but behind. In those first meters of the Corkscrew, the race was already slipping away from the rest of the field. UAE had found the perfect terrain to impose its strength, and the climb, once again, was about to deliver a verdict that would shape the entire Tour Down Under. The Corkscrew climb does not reward hesitation. It demands commitment from the very first ramp. And as the peloton turned onto its opening slopes, it became clear that this would not be a climb for calculation or waiting. The margin for error disappeared instantly. UAE Team Emirates, XRG, raised the tempo with a clear objective: control the climb, eliminate rivals, decide the stage. The pace was not violent at first, but it was relentless, a steady pressure designed to drain legs and expose anyone who arrived with even the slightest doubt. Once again, Adam Yates played a crucial role. His contribution was about rhythm rather than spectacle. Metre after metre, his efforts stretched the group until it began to fracture. Riders were not dropped in dramatic fashion. They simply slipped away, one by one, unable to sustain the intensity. Then came the decisive moment. Vine took over at the front and immediately increased the speed. The acceleration was sharp and uncompromising. The effect was immediate. The lead group shrank to just a handful of riders, and within seconds it was clear that the race had entered a new phase. Only Jhonatan Narváez managed to stay with Vine. The defending champion understood the dynamics perfectly. This was not the moment to attack or to prove strength. It was the moment to survive, to read the situation, and to protect his position in the overall classification. Behind them, the picture was chaotic. Favourites were scattered across the climb, each fighting a personal battle. There was no organisation, no coordinated response. The damage was already done. The Corkscrew had once again fulfilled its role as the race's ultimate filter. What made this moment so decisive was not just the gap on the road, but the clarity of roles. Vine was driving the move. Narváez was managing it. UAE was dictating the outcome. The rest of the peloton was reacting, not acting. By the time they approached the top of the climb, the differences were already meaningful, not only in seconds, but in confidence. The stage had not yet finished, but the outcome was beginning to feel inevitable. The Corkscrew had spoken, and it had spoken early. Once the race had been broken, the focus shifted from aggression to control. And this is where the partnership between Vine and Jhonatan Narváez became decisive. The move was no longer about testing limits. It was about managing an advantage and turning dominance into certainty. Vine had already done the damage on the Corkscrew. His sustained acceleration created the separation that no one else could follow. Narváez, for his part, understood exactly what the situation required. He did not contribute on the climb. It looked like weakness. In reality, it was clarity. His priority was not the stage, it was the general classification. As they crested the climb together, the gap behind them was already significant. More importantly, the chase lacked structure. The terrain after the Corkscrew remained demanding, with rolling gradients that punished any hesitation. But out front, everything looked calm. Vine kept the tempo high and steady. Narváez stayed composed, attentive, and efficient. There was no confusion about roles. Vine was riding for the stage. Narváez was riding for control. That balance allowed UAE Team Emirates, XRG, to maximise the outcome without internal conflict. No attacks, no unnecessary risks, just a shared understanding of what mattered most. Behind them, the situation never stabilised. Small groups formed and dissolved. Riders took turns pulling without conviction. The energy required to close the gap simply was not there. The psychological blow delivered on the Corkscrew carried through the final kilometres. As the finish approached, the result was no longer in doubt. Vine powered on to claim a deserved stage victory. Narváez crossed the line just seconds later, completing a dominant 1-2 and sending a clear message to the rest of the field. This was not a lucky day. This was a planned outcome. The time gained was decisive, not just in terms of seconds, but in terms of control. The general classification was now tilted firmly in UAE's favour. 2 riders, 1 team, 1 objective. Stage 2 did not simply crown a winner. It reshaped the Tour Down Under. And it did so through precision, discipline, and a partnership that turned strength into inevitability. While the stage was being decided at the front, a very different race was unfolding behind. A race of damage control, of limiting losses, and, for some teams, of realising that the Corkscrew had once again exposed uncomfortable truths. Not everyone arrived at this climb in the same condition, and the differences were brutally clear. For Movistar Team, the day delivered mixed emotions. On a climb where success had arrived the previous year, expectations were naturally higher. This time, however, the outcome was very different. Javier Romo could not find the legs that had defined his 2025 form. He resisted as long as possible, but once the pace escalated, the response simply was not there. It was not a sudden collapse. It was a gradual fading, the kind that offers no chance to recover. The strongest Movistar rider on the day proved to be Nathanael Tesfazian. The Eritrean rode intelligently, positioned himself well, and managed to finish inside the first chasing group, although already 58 seconds down. In a climb as selective as the Corkscrew, that effort stood out as a genuine positive. That chasing group also included riders such as Harry Sweeney, Filippo Zana, Mauro Schmid, and Marco Brenner. All of them managed to contain losses, but none had the resources or cohesion needed to mount a real chase. The race, by that point, was already fragmented beyond repair. Further back, the rest of Movistar's key riders arrived in small groups, confirming that the team could not respond collectively to the force applied by UAE. In a climb like the Corkscrew, individual strength matters, but team structure matters even more, and that difference was decisive. What this stage ultimately revealed was not a single bad day or a tactical mistake. It revealed a structural gap. UAE Team Emirates, XRG, imposed the pace. Everyone else reacted. And when that dynamic takes hold, the race stops being strategic and becomes a test of survival. After what unfolded on Stage 2, the Tour Down Under 2026 can no longer be viewed as an open contest. The race has taken shape, and it has done so decisively. Not through misfortune or randomness, but through a controlled display of collective strength that left little room for debate. UAE Team Emirates, XRG, did more than win a stage. They seized control of the race narrative. They dictated the tempo, the selection, and ultimately, the hierarchy. From this point forward, the general classification revolves around 2 riders wearing the same colours, and the rest of the peloton is fully aware of it. The Corkscrew climb once again acted as the ultimate judge, but this time, it was not a gradual elimination. It was a clear verdict. The race was broken in a matter of minutes. Gaps opened not only on the road, but in confidence. Riders who arrived slightly below their best had no chance to recover. The 1-2 finish was no coincidence. It was the product of precision, early control, perfect timing, and flawless execution. In a short stage race, opportunities are rare. UAE recognised the key moment and committed fully. That commitment changed everything. From here on, the dynamics shift. Pressure moves elsewhere. Other teams must attack. They must take risks. They must find terrain where UAE is less comfortable, because on steep climbs, the message has already been delivered. The Tour Down Under is not over, but it has been clearly defined. The time gaps are real. The control is visible. And the psychological advantage now weighs as much as the seconds on the clock. When a team dominates so convincingly this early, it does not just gain time, it gains authority. The Corkscrew spoke again, and this time it spoke louder than ever.